Here are 50 amazing facts to blow your mind. The United Kingdom has a right to roam, which allows public access for walking and leisure to mountains, moors, heaths, and downs that are privately owned. The reason that buildings in Hong Kong have gaping holes in them is to allow dragons free passage from their mountain homes to the sea. Well, I guess tradition goes a little too far in some places. The bull on the Elmer's Glue logo is the husband of Elsie, the cow on the Borden Milk logo. In the Godfather film, McCluskey's shooting was done by building a fake forehead on top of actor Sterling Hayden. A gap was cut in the middle, filled with fake blood, and bunged up with prosthetic flesh. The plug was then yanked out with a fishing line to make a hole suddenly appear. So gross. Up to 40% of tuna imported to the US from Thailand is illegal or unreported, followed by up to 45% of pollock imports from China and 70% of salmon imports. Illegal fish, who knew? According to the patent for toilet paper, the creator, Seti Wheeler, made a drawing that officially shows that toilet paper should go over, not under. Well, that's gonna settle a lot of debates. The phrase, always a bridesmaid, never a bride, was popularized by Listerine in ads, featuring a lovelorn woman unable to find a husband due to her halitosis. The same ad coined the term halitosis. According to an analysis done by SwiftKey, Canada uses the poop emoji more than any other country. Hearts are #1 in France, even beating the standard smiley, and Australia leads the world in alcohol and drug-related emojis. The NYPD has undercover cop cabs. Some police stations have recently created safe exchange zones, designated areas for trades arranged through Craigslist and similar sites. The original creator for the Barbie doll, Jack Ryan, had previously designed military-grade missiles. Well, from one extreme to the next, I guess. Former Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez stated that Muammar Gaddafi was welcome in Venezuela, but stated that Charlie Sheen was not, and that, quote, there are limits. There's a Detroit company called Extreme Kidnapping where people pay up to $1,500 to get tied up and kidnapped for fun. I don't understand. What's fun about that? In 1990, a man named Jesse Sharp paddled over the Niagara Falls in a kayak. He intended to paddle on after the fall to a restaurant downstream where he had made restaurant reservations, but he didn't wear a life jacket in case it impeded his escape. His body was never found. Back in 1993, it was discovered that Heidelberg University in Germany was using human corpses in crash tests. Hydrogen peroxide is not recommended for cuts and wounds, and actually slows healing by killing the healthy skin cells. In 2010, after the BP oil spill, Stephen Colbert declared that every time he said the word Bing, the Microsoft search engine would donate $2,500 to oil spill cleanup efforts. He managed to say Bing 40 times, thereby raising $100,000 for his charity, the Colbert Nation Gulf of America Fund. On the set of the movie Apocalypse Now, the production cast design decided to actually use real bodies instead of fake ones. It was only discovered when a pungent odor became too strong for the rest of the cast to ignore. There's an annual conference called the Boring Conference on, well, boring things. In the past, people have given talks on barcodes, sneezing, and the sounds of vending machines. The Muppet Show received a letter from a man informing them that the Swedish chef doesn't actually speak Swedish. The head writer wrote back, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We were going to fire the chef on the spot, but he has a wife and family and promised to take Swedish lessons." Gotta love a sense of humor. The day after Robin Williams' suicide, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline fielded the greatest number of calls in its history. The Lego Movie incorporated actual fan-made short Lego films into its plot. You can see them on the monitors in the scene where the citizens discover their creativity. Platypuses don't have stomachs. In fact, they're not the only jawed vertebrates with that trait. Michigan oncologist Dr. Fareed Farah was convicted and sentenced to 45 years in prison after it was discovered that he had bilked 553 cancer patients for millions of dollars by overtreating, undertreating, misdiagnosing, and even administering treatment to people that never had cancer in the first place. Yeah, there's a special place in hell for that guy. The police in West Germany located a man who had a warrant for unpaid fines. They confronted him just as a slot machine that he was at struck a jackpot, and he avoided jail time by paying the fine on the spot. A school in Pune, India encourages students to conserve water by pouring leftover drinking water from the bottles in a large tank before they go home every day. They use this to water plants and trees or for other non-drinking purposes. Takuya Nagaya, 23, from Japan, started to slither on the floor and claimed that he had become a snake. His mother thought that he had actually been possessed by a snake and called for her husband Katsumi. He spent the next 2 days headbutting and biting his son to, quote, drive out the snake, but caused his death in the process. Tasmania has an extra day of Easter, known as Easter Tuesday. It is only celebrated in Tasmania. Kamla Devi, a 56-year-old Indian woman, was ambushed by a leopard and actually managed to kill it with the only thing that she had on her, an iron sickle. For the film Gone Girl, David Fincher wanted Ben Affleck to wear a Yankees cap for a scene. Affleck, a die-hard Red Sox fan, adamantly refused, and this led to a 4-day production halt until the two came to an agreement that he would wear a Mets cap. D-Day was originally set for June 5th, but had to be postponed for 24 hours due to bad weather. The green ink used in American money was actually invented at McGill University in Montreal, Canada in 1857 by Thomas Sterry Hunt. Cold foods like ice cream cause brain freeze by causing a sudden surge of blood to the brain. A team of archaeologists found what they believe to be the world's oldest board game in a 5,000-year-old Bronze Age burial site in Turkey. They believe that board games originated in Egypt in the Fertile Crescent. The tumbler for the Dark Knight trilogy is actually a working vehicle, not a CGI model. Okay, where can I get one of those? The most expensive guitar pick costs, brace yourself, $4,674 and is made out of a meteor. It's made by the company Star Picks. There's a UK-based company named Gumdrop that recycles gum into bins that are made out of entirely recycled gum. There is a territory in Costa Rica called Territorio de Zaguates, which means Land of the Strays, which is basically a huge no-kill dog shelter where you can hike for free with dogs. Little teeny tiny pooches! In the 1960s and 70s, professional bowlers were international celebrities who made twice as much money as NFL stars at the time. It's believed that the term sandwich was named after John Montagu, 4th Earl of Sandwich, a town in the county of Kent in southeast England. He would ask his servants to bring him slices of meat between 2 slices of bread while he was gambling at a table so that he wouldn't have to leave the game. President Reagan saved Harley-Davidson motorcycles by raising tariffs 45% on Japanese bikes that entered the country. Oscar the Grouch was originally orange, not green. According to a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, female-named storms have historically killed more people because people neither consider them as risky nor take the same precautions as the male-named storms. Yeah, you should probably not even consider the name of the storm, just, it's a tornado, man, go hide. In 2008, a Jamaican beach called Coral Spring Beach was actually stolen and the thieves were never caught. They achieved this by stealing massive amounts of sand until it basically wasn't a beach anymore. We not only have fingerprints, but also toe prints that have been used in criminal cases. The headphone jack on your smartphone has remained relatively unchanged other than size since 1878. During World War II, Japan launched balloons with bombs into the jet stream. The only known mainland attack in the US occurred when 5 picnickers found a downed balloon and attempted to move it. The bomb went off and killed them. The locations of many of the balloons is still unknown. The delicious treat of peeps were once made by hand and took nearly 30 hours to create. Rats are a delicacy in Thailand. At one point after its launch, Kim Kardashian's emoji app was making $1 million a minute. According to the National Severe Storms Laboratory, the part of lightning that we can see actually comes from the ground up, not the sky down. Out of all the cicada in the world, only males can produce this famous sound. Their organs have something called tymbals, and their muscles pop the tymbals in and out, which creates that famous sound. State health department records over the past decade show that Hawaii's visitor drowning rate is 13 times higher than the national average and 10 times the rate of the number of its own residents. In 2011, a cafe opened in Istanbul called the Down Cafe. They only hire staff between the ages of 18 to 25 with Down syndrome. In 1891, Dr. James Naismith from Almont, Ontario, Canada, invented the game of basketball. He cut out the bottom of a peach basket and hung it 10 feet in the air, and thus the game was born. In 2014, the International Space Station had to be moved 3 separate times in order to avoid being hit by lethal-sized space debris. Oregon's Mount Angel Abbey Museum houses the world's largest pig hairball. It's the size of a football. That's gross. Inventor Joey Stein of Genius Ideas in New York City has invented a device that can communicate with fireflies. At the push of a button, it sends out a come hither message that attracts fireflies and lets users observe them up close. According to the New England Journal of Medicine, a 30-year-old man from India developed an unusual flower-shaped cataract with 10 petals after sustaining a concussion from a bike accident. Kangaroos have 3 vaginas. 2 of them are on the outside and are for sperm and lead to 2 uteruses, and the middle one is for giving birth. In March of 2012, Israel adopted a law called the Photoshop Law, stipulating that fashion and commercial models should have a body mass index, or BMI, of at least 18.5. For context, a healthy BMI is between 18.5 to 24.9. The praying mantis can actually camouflage itself by changing color. It can vary from dark brown to green to blend in with tree bark and leaves. This enables it to hide from predators and also sneak up on prey. Gangster Al Capone started one of the very first soup kitchens in Chicago in 1931. Steven Spielberg named the shark prop used in the 1975 movie Jaws Bruce after his lawyer. Hello, my name's Bruce. The original Hollywood sign was erected in 1923 and was conceived as an outdoor ad campaign for a suburban housing development called Hollywoodland. However, it was refurbished and shortened to just Hollywood in 1949. Back in the 1920s, there were beach police that actually went around measuring women's swimsuit lengths to ensure that no one was wearing a swimsuit with a questionable length. If a woman was found violating the code, they would be forced to cover up or sent home, or in some cases actually arrested. Pinball machines were actually banned in New York City back in 1976. Research from the Chinese Academy of Medical Sciences shows that people who ate spicy foods 6 to 7 times per week had a 14% lower risk of premature death for all causes, rather than people who ate spicy foods less than once a week. There's a Burger King in Finland with an in-house sauna. The 10-person sauna can be rented for $285 US for 3 hours and can be used for birthday parties or work events. A koala sleeps for around 20 hours a day. KFC in Hong Kong is offering lickable edible fingernail polish in 2 different flavors, original and hot and spicy. Get it? Because it's finger licking, like, my fingernails, that's not unsanitary at all. Amsterdam has a houseboat that is a sanctuary for rescued cats. It's actually become a tourist attraction that receives about 4,500 visitors a year. According to the World Health Organization, worldwide, up to 5 million people are bitten by snakes every year. However, don't fear, because the majority of these occur in Africa and Southeast Asia. Unless you live in those places, in which case, worry. According to the World Health Organization, the number of people with diabetes has risen from 108 million in 1980 to 422 million in 2014. September 10th, 1977 was the very last time that someone was executed by a guillotine. Uruguayan architect architect Raphael Vanoli designed a ring-shaped bridge on Uruguay's southern coast called the Laguna Garzon Bridge to encourage people to slow down and take in the view. There are some turtles, such as the Australian Fitzroy River turtle and the North American Eastern Painted Turtle, that can breathe through their butts as well as their mouths. Someone give that turtle a breath mint. The Vermont Novelty Toaster Corporation introduced the toasted selfie. All you have to do is send in a selfie and they'll print it for you on a selfie toast producing gadget in just 10 days. Chocolate Avenue is a street in Hershey, Pennsylvania that runs past the original Hershey's chocolate factory. The street lights are shaped like Hershey Kisses. Only female mosquitoes bite humans and animals. Male mosquitoes only feed on flower nectar. Up until the late 1960s, long-haired male visitors to Disneyland were actually turned away because they didn't meet the unwritten dress code. In 1952, Albert Einstein was actually offered the presidency of Israel. However, he politely declined the offer. All surface water of the Atlantic Ocean is significantly saltier than the Pacific Ocean. Unify, a manufacturer in Greensboro, North Carolina, recycles plastic bottles into polyester yarn to make t-shirts, shorts, or even graduation gowns. In fact, approximately 400,000 college students will actually accept diplomas this year while wearing these gowns. During the first 3 years, a child's brain triples in weight and establishes about 1,000 trillion nerve connections. Two University of Washington undergraduates, Naveed Azadi and Thomas Pryor, have actually created gloves called Sign Aloud that can convert sign language into spoken word via Bluetooth. Road traffic crashes are the leading cause of death among children ages 10 to 19. So please be careful out there, your life is precious, baby. A survey done by Oxford University found that the average Facebook user has about 155 friends, but is only close enough with about 4 that they would be willing to turn to in a crisis. Omphalophobia is the fear of the belly button. Sufferers of this are actually afraid to have their belly buttons touched or to touch another person's. Motorized self-balancing scooters, aka hoverboards, are actually illegal in New York City. Some baby whales are actually born with hair. Most species born with hair usually lose it over the first several days or weeks of birth, especially knowledge whales. According to a study done by Nick Wolfinger, a sociologist at the University of Utah, people have a better chance of not getting divorced if they get married between the ages of 28 and 32. Abu Dhabi has the largest falcon hospital in the world. In fact, it houses over 6,000 falcons. North Youngest Road in Bolivia has the nickname Death Road because it's estimated that between 200 to 300 people per year die on it. There is a 30-foot replica of a 1951 Canadian nickel in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. At birth, baby kangaroos or joeys can be as small as a grain of rice or as big as a bee. Either way, that's super small. 3.5 billion years ago, a mega asteroid that was likely 30 miles across slammed into Earth in Australia. The impact caused tsunamis and craters bigger than many US states. On May 15, 2016, doctors announced that they had performed the first penile transplant in the United States. The recipient was 64-year-old Thomas Manning from Massachusetts. The operation took 15 hours and they used the penis from a deceased donor. That's zombie dick. As of May 10th, 2016, the Endangered Species Act of 1973 listed 1,367 species of animals and 901 species of plants as endangered or threatened. License plates in the Northwestern Territories in Canada are shaped like polar bears. The US Navy uses dolphins and sea lions to locate and mark the location of sea mines. Dolphins have the most sophisticated sonar known to man, and sea lions have excellent low-light vision and underwater directional hearing capabilities, which makes them the perfect animals for the job. The grumbling you get in your stomach is called borborygmi. It's caused by the movement of gas within the intestines. The Galapagos iguana is the only iguana in the world that feeds underwater. They can hold their breath for up to half an hour and dive up to 9.1 meters. Since all mammals, including dolphins, require fresh water in order to survive, it's believed that dolphins have an advanced filtration system that allows them to extract additional salt from their urine in order to separate separate the salt from the salt water that they consume. There's a neurological condition called synesthesia in which two or more senses are attached. There are multiple types of synesthesia, but one of them is called mirror touch synesthesia, where people with it feel exactly what others feel as pain and pleasure. The Galapagos Islands are a chain of islands created by volcanic activity, and no animals are actually native to the Galapagos. Every species of animal that's in the Galapagos came from floating on ocean or air currents. According to a study done by the Department of Experimental Psychology at the University of Bristol in 2010, caffeine makes men less but women more effective as partners under stress. There are utility tunnels lined with pipes that run under most of the buildings on the University of Ohio's campus. They were created in the late 1800s as a way to access the pipes in case of an emergency without digging through the lawn, and they're still in use today. China's population actually shrunk by 1 million people in a period of only 5 years between 2010 and 2015. In 1945, 25-year-old Balua Hunter gave birth to a healthy baby girl after being pregnant for 375 days. To put that into perspective, a normal pregnancy is about 280 days. The largest gem-quality diamond ever found is the Foxfire diamond. It was found in August of 2015 at the Diavik Diamond Mine above the Arctic Circle in Canada's Northwest Territories. It is a whopping 188 carats. Researchers are currently developing flexible electronic skin for prosthetic limbs that can help replicate the sensory capabilities of real skin. It can even feel temperature changes. There's an artificial heart device known as a syncardia that allows people to live temporarily without a heart. It's often used by people who are waiting for a heart donor. On June 27, 2015, Joseph Totling of Austria beat the world record for the longest distance pulled by a horse while fully engulfed in flames. He traveled a half-kilometer completely on fire. Queen Elizabeth II is not only the longest serving British monarch in history, but she's the longest serving living monarch. Many cats actually love olives because of the isoprenoids found in olives that are structurally similar to the active chemical in catnip. Airports in the United States use peregrine falcons to keep gulls and geese away from the runways in order to reduce the risk of collision with planes. Up until the 1990s, the halftime show at the Super Bowl was just marching bands and drill teams, simply meant to fill in the time so that fans and TV viewers could go to the concession stand, get a favorite snack, go to the refrigerator, or just go to the bathroom. Anheuser-Busch InBev paid a whopping $1.4 billion in order to renew its contract as the official beer of the NFL through to the 2022 Super Bowl. They've been the official beer of the Super Bowl since 2011 when they replaced Coors Light. According to a study published by Vegetarian Times, 3.2% of US adults, that's about 3.7 million people, follow a vegetarian-based diet. There is a National Fancy Rat Society. It was formed in 1976 by a group of people who simply wanted to promote the rat as a pet and an exhibition animal. According to the Guinness World Records, on June 7, 2014, 1,416 Toyota cars were parked together in Airport Kuznetsovo, Russia, to create a giant Toyota logo, breaking the previous world record held by Subaru. It was created to introduce a new Toyota dealership in the area. There are restaurants throughout Bangkok, Thailand called Cabbages and Condoms, where there is condom-themed decor, and instead of offering you an after-dinner mint, you get a condom on the way out. During the making of Rocky IV, Sylvester Stallone was put in the hospital by Dolph Lundgren. Dolph hit him so hard in the chest during a fight scene that the pericardial sac around his heart swelled up, which impeded the beating of his heart, causing his blood pressure to skyrocket to 290. He spent 9 days in intensive care. There's a tomato tree in Epcot's Land Pavilion in Florida that holds the world record for the most tomatoes harvested from a single plant in 1 year. This tomato tree had a 1-year harvest of 32,000 tomatoes, weighing in at a total of 522.5 kilograms. Only 1 in every 300 calico cats are male. In February of 2017, NASA and the European Space Agency's Hubble Space Telescope captured a rare image that shows the death of a star. It shows the dying star transforming from a red giant to a planetary nebula called the Calabash Nebula. It's known as the Rotten Egg Nebula because it contains so much sulfur that it would smell like rotten eggs. On September 12, 2001, the day after the terrorist attacks of 9/11, the Queen broke with tradition during the changing of the guard by having the guards play the Star-Spangled Banner as a sign of the UK's sympathy for all that the US had to go through and all of those that were killed. Actor Michael Clark Duncan, who played John Coffey in the movie The Green Mile, was once the bodyguard to Queen Latifah, Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, and Jamie Foxx. Greenland is the least densely populated territory in the world, with only 0.02 people per square kilometer. The entire population is only about 56,000 people. The first Super Bowl was officially called the first AFL-NFL World Championship game. There's actually no lead in a pencil. The core of a pencil is made of a non-toxic mineral called graphite. On July 20th, 1944, an assassination attempt on Adolf Hitler's life was attempted by Colonel Claus von Stauffenberg, chief of the Army Reserve. Stauffenberg planted a bomb in a briefcase, which he placed near Hitler under a table, then left quickly. Another colonel inadvertently moved the bomb further away from Hitler so that when it was detonated, Hitler was injured, but he survived. The creator of the video game Minecraft, Marcus Notch Persson, sold the business in 2014 to Microsoft for $2.5 billion. The chemical compounds that we emit when passing gas varies depending on what we've eaten and can vary from one person to another. But in case you were wondering, the typical breakdown of a fart is about 20 to 90% nitrogen, 0 to 50% hydrogen, 10 to 30% carbon dioxide, 0 to 10% oxygen, and 0 to 10% methane. Lead singer of Aerosmith, Steven Tyler, started Janie's Fund, named after his song Janie's Got a Gun, to support programs offered at youth villages to help girls overcome deep trauma of abuse and neglect. President Lyndon B. Johnson was such a huge dog lover that he tried to sneak his dog Yuki into his daughter Lucy's wedding. In 1968, the crew of the Apollo 7 won a special Emmy Award from the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences for their live transmissions from space. President Richard Nixon could play 5 instruments: the piano, the saxophone, the clarinet, the accordion, and the violin. In 1980, Beatle Paul McCartney was arrested and then deported from Japan after a 9-day stint in the Tokyo Narcotics Detention Center for trying to smuggle in nearly half a pound of marijuana in his baggage. Those little round bugs that live under logs, called pill bugs, aka roly-poly bugs, that are not really bugs at all, are actually crustaceans. They're actually related to shrimp and crayfish, breathe with gills, and need humidity and moisture to survive. The word Kia has origins in the Chinese language with the first syllable ki, meaning to arise or come out of. The second part of the word refers to Asia. So in other words, Kia means to rise up or come out of Asia. Lemurs have terrible vision and can only see in black and white. Llamas and alpacas can successfully interbreed, and their offspring is called huarzo. Snakes actually used to be able to slither and walk because they used to have legs, but they evolved into legless creatures, but the gene to grow limbs still exists. Both Muslims and Hindus in some parts of India have a ritual that dates back 500 years where they drop their babies from the roof of a temple to a sheet held taut by men on the ground. It's considered to bring good health and good luck. On Valentine's Day, during the Victorian era and the early 20th century, people sent vinegar valentines, as well as the usual Valentine's cards. Sold in the United States and Britain, the cards featured an illustration and a short verse of insult instead of love. It was a way for them to insult someone without actually doing it to their face. Ooh! Whale milk has such a high percentage of fat in it that it is the same consistency of toothpaste. The high fat content not only helps nourish the whale calf, but also keeps the milk from dissolving in the water. A single gram of venom from the Bruno's cask-headed frog is strong enough to kill 80 people. Isn't he cute? On February 10th, 2017, there was a full moon, a lunar eclipse, and a comet that could all be seen in the same night. A single day on the planet Venus lasts longer than an entire year. This is due to the incredibly slow rotation of the planet compared to its close proximity and thus shorter journey around the sun. When hungry or in need of something, cats knowingly manipulate people into doing their bidding. They use a special purr that sounds like a normal one, but embedded in it is a cry that humans find hard to ignore. Despite being twins, Amy and Katie Jones Elliott were born 87 days apart. Their mother, Maria, went into labor on June 1st, 2012, after being pregnant for only 23 weeks and gave birth to Amy. Then, on August 27th, 13 weeks later, doctors induced labor and Katie was born. The pair of girls hold the world record for time between two twins being born. Ignoring the many diseases that insects can carry, it would take around 400,000 mosquitoes to extract enough blood from a human being to kill them. And it would take 1 million mosquitoes to drain all the average person's blood from their body. Famous artist and genius of his time, Leonardo da Vinci, was an ambidextrous paranoid dyslexic and could draw or paint forward with one hand while the other wrote sentences backwards. The melody of the Star-Spangled Banner, the national anthem of the USA, was actually taken from To Un Crayon in Heaven, a British song about drinking and sex. When icebergs melt, they produce a fizzing sound called the Bergy Seltzer. The sound is made by the popping of air bubbles that have been trapped in the pressurized ice for centuries. The real name of the wizard in The Wizard of Oz is Oscar Zoester Phadrig Isaac Norman Henkel Emmanuel Ambrose Diggs. In the original book, he explains that he goes by Oz because the rest of his initials literally spell out Pinhead. Lions, tigers, leopards, and jaguars are the only subspecies of cats that can roar. All other felines are incapable due to not having the elastic ligament connecting bones supporting their larynxes that those four types have. The filling that sits between the wafers of a Kit Kat chocolate bar are actually other Kit Kats. The exterior of every bar is examined, and those that have too many air bubbles or other imperfections are ground up into crumbly dust and used to make more chocolate bars. Side note, if you've never had the green tea Kit Kat from Japan, you haven't lived. The Denver International Airport in Denver, Colorado is more than twice the size of the island of Manhattan. It's the largest airport in the United States and has the biggest jet fuel distribution network on the planet. Researchers and zoologists have proven that birth control pills used by human females also work for female gorillas, leading many to believe that our two species have more in common than we originally thought. Susami, a small fishing town in Japan, received a Guinness World Record for having the deepest mailbox on the planet. Situated 10 meters underwater off the coast is an old-style red mailbox in which divers can place waterproof letters which are collected every few days. And it receives a lot. The mailbox actually gets between 1,000 and 1,500 pieces of mail every year. There are more possible iterations of piece placement in a game of chess than there are atoms in the known universe. Every month, water treatment companies around the world extract over a ton of hair from their plants. The hair is most often taken to a waste facility and buried, but some companies have found other uses for it. I do not want to know what those uses are. There are whales living off the coast of Alaska that were alive before Herman Melville's classic novel Moby Dick was written. Melville originally published the book on October 18, 1851, and many of the aquatic mammals living in the Arctic Arctic are over 200 years old. The Haskell Free Library and Opera House is located directly on the Canada-US border and has two different addresses, one in Stansted, Quebec, and the other in Derby Line, Vermont. The Canadian side contains the library and stage, while the American side has the main entrance and most of the seats. You can literally borrow a book in one country, take it a few steps, and read it in the same room, but in a different country. Although she's often associated with the Great Pyramid in Egypt, Cleopatra lived closer in time to the creation of the smartphone than she did to the construction of the massive pointy wonder of the ancient world. When the Great Pyramid was completed, woolly mammoths were still roaming the earth. The last man to walk on the moon was astronaut Eugene Cernan. Before climbing back into the lander on December 1972, Cernan dragged his foot through the moon's dusty surface, writing TDC, his daughter Tracy's initials. And theoretically, they're still there today. Consuming alcohol before firearm shooting competitions has been banned in many places due to alcohol being labeled a performance-enhancing drug. Drinking has a calming effect on nerves, which can actually steady a shooter's hand. Monarch butterflies have been known to become cannibals, consuming other monarch caterpillars or eggs, though usually they do so only when their food sources are scarce. Almost all Muppets on Sesame Street or The Muppet Show are left-handed. This is because most puppeteers are right-handed. They use their right hand to operate the character's mouth and the left to work the left hand or hand rod. The owner of Fender Electric Instrument Manufacturing and inventor of the Telecaster, the first mass-produced electric guitar on Earth, Leo Fender, couldn't actually play any of the instruments that he designed. A close inspection of the Liberty Bell, which is currently in Philadelphia, reveals that Pennsylvania is misspelled. One of the N's is missing. Spell check, folks. Spell check. NASA's Vehicle Assembly Building at the Kennedy Space Center in Titusville, Florida, is so massive that it has its own weather. Rain clouds often form inside the building due to humid weather. The Captain mascot from Cap'n Crunch cereal's full name is Captain Horatio Magellan Crunch, and his ship is the SS Guppy. In the town of Coloma, California, the dead outnumber the living by a ratio of nearly 1,000 to 1. There are grave markers for around 1.5 million of the deceased, while the living population sits at only 1,600. As per his last wishes, after the death of Edward Hedrick, the inventor of Frisbee golf, the man's ashes were molded into a new series of Frisbee and sold so that he could be thrown around forever. After his fatal shooting, rapper Tupac Shakur's ashes were rolled up and smoked by his friends, who took his last wishes from his song Black Jesus very seriously. If you took all the cement used in the making of the Hoover Dam, you could construct a 2-lane roadway from New York City all the way to San Francisco. If dropped from an equal distance, a solid glass or steel ball will actually bounce higher in the air than a regular non-bouncy rubber ball. This is due to the harder balls losing less energy when they make an impact. Leopard frogs use their eyes to help them swallow food. By squeezing them shut, they pull their eyes into their own mouths, compressing food down into their throats. According to research conducted for Forbes magazine, the richest fictional character is Scrooge McDuck, who had theoretically amassed a fortune of over $65.4 billion by 2013. Well, yeah, I mean, he filled a room with coins and swims in them. He's rich. Smaug, the dragon from the Hobbit book and movies, also made Forbes' richest list, taking second place. His hoards of gold and other treasures were estimated to be worth around $54.1 billion. Mature goat bucks will urinate on their own heads, beards, and front legs before initiating a mating ritual. There are an estimated average of 40,000 injuries involving toilets every year in the United States, and some of them lead to fatalities. High up on the northwest tower of the Washington National Cathedral, among the grotesque gargoyles, sits a stone carving of a head of Darth Vader. When the tower was being built in the 1980s, a contest was held for kids to design the statues. Christopher Rader received third place, and his submission, The Dark Lord of the Sith, joined the ranks of limestone heads. In 1985, the tiny town of Riverside, Iowa, declared itself the future birthplace of Captain James T. Kirk, the fictional captain of the USS Enterprise in the original Star Trek series. Modern Eskimos use refrigerators despite living in mostly sub-zero temperatures. Instead of using them to keep food cool, they actually use them to prevent their food from freezing. Though listening to someone being constantly sarcastic can be frustrating, studies show that hearing such sly and witty remarks can actually improve both analytical and creative thinking. Oh yeah, sure it can. It'll make you way smarter. The largest tapeworm to ever be surgically removed from a human body was a whopping 33 meters long. Jarl Sigurd the Mighty, Viking ruler of Orkney, was killed in 892 AD after being bitten by a man he'd beheaded. After mounting the head on his executed enemy on horse, Sigurd rode off, only to have the head's teeth scratch his leg. The wound became infected and soon cost the Viking his life. There are more wild camels in Australia than anywhere else on the planet, including the Middle East. In fact, the camel population has gotten out of control, and tens of millions of dollars has been spent by the Australian government just to deal with them. In 1989, while taking a private romantic stroll through a zoo with his then wife Robin Givens, heavyweight boxing legend Mike Tyson spotted an alpha male gorilla bullying his fellow apes. So the champ offered a zookeeper $10,000 to let him into the cage so that he could fight it. The zookeeper declined his offer. For 3 years during World War II, Academy Award winners took home painted plaster statuettes instead of the more traditional solid bronze Oscars that were plated in 24-karat gold. This was due to a metal shortage, but after the war was over, winners were invited to trade in their plaster Oscars for the standard versions. The name Jessica, which was the top baby name for girls in the United States for many years in the 1980s and 90s, was actually invented by William Shakespeare. He created it for his play The Merchant of Venice. Shakespeare was also the man behind the well-known phrases dead as a doornail, bated breath, kill with kindness, and vanish into thin air. Beetle species make up around 40% of all documented insects. After finding out his wife had been sold fake gems by a jewel dealer, Roman Emperor Gallienus had the dealer arrested and dumped into an empty arena. He then let the man stew there while he listened to hungry lions roar on the other side of a door and waited to be torn limb from limb. However, when the door eventually opened, instead of vicious cats, a small chicken came running out. A herald then called out he practiced deceit and has had it practiced on him. Located in the Palestinian territories, the city of Jericho dates back over 10,000 years. It's actually the oldest city on Earth. Theoretically, 1 gram of DNA could hold around 455 exabytes of data, which is enough to contain all of the data held by every major tech company combined, including Facebook and Google. Thanks to extremely high carbon dioxide levels, the island of Tasmania is home to what very well may be the cleanest air in the entire world. In 1807, Pall Mall in the city of London, England, became the very first street in history to be illuminated by gaslight. You can walk down Pall Mall, though modern lampposts have obviously replaced the gaslights. According to a report released in May of 2016 by the Government Accountability Office, America's nuclear weapons system is incredibly outdated and still runs on floppy disks, a medium that hasn't been popular since the 1980s. Well, that gives me a lot of hope. Nukes being controlled by floppy disks. Okay. Despite being nearly 805,000 kilometers in circumference, the rings around the planet Saturn are only around 30.5 centimeters thick. In Tokyo, Japan, vending machines offer a large selection of wigs that you can buy for your dog. The trend became so popular that you can now buy a much larger assortment through online stores. Between August 28th and September 3rd of 1970, tens of thousands of people attended an event in Clackamas County, Oregon, called Vortex One. The free-to-attend event was dubbed a biodegradable festival of life and remains America's only large-scale rock festival to be sponsored by a Republican governor. However, the entire thing was a ploy designed to keep young people out of Portland, where then President Richard Nixon was visiting for a convention, and it worked. When food becomes scarce, ribbon worms will begin consuming themselves. Experts claim that these adaptive creatures can eat as much as 95% of their own bodies and still survive. That doesn't work for humans. After being denied a reduced rate while buying syrup in bulk, American businessman Claude Hatcher promised himself that he would never buy Coca-Cola again and would instead create his own soft drink. Hatcher kept his promise and created Royal Crown RC Cola. Before his criminal career, famous bank robber John Dillinger had a professional baseball career, playing shortstop for the Martinsville Athletics. The Beatles' hit Strawberry Fields Forever is actually about a Liverpool orphanage that John Lennon would frequently visit when he was younger. In November of 1995, Marvel released a very dark one-shot comic book in which the Punisher loses his family in a fight between superheroes as well as supervillains. He goes on a one-man killing spree, effectively ending the lives of everyone on both sides before taking his own. Oh my god, and I thought the end of Infinity War was dark. If not for the amazing Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, Mark Hamill would not have been cast as Luke Skywalker. The Star Wars actor happened to be crashing on Englund's couch while the horror movie legend was briefly being considered for the role of Han Solo. Englund encouraged Hamill to go audition for Skywalker, and of course he did, and landed the iconic role. Looking to the night sky, you can see nearly 5 times the number of meteors after midnight than you can before midnight. Before he was James Bond or Remington Steele, actor Pierce Brosnan spent 3 years performing as a fire eater in the circus. Better than a clown. Due to an incident in which a 14-year-old girl had difficulties returning from a trance-like state, schools in San Diego have banned the use of hypnotism. Okay, kids, and that's it. Oh, she's still under? Oh, gotta go. A few weeks after the city of Nagasaki was devastated by a nuclear bomb, members of the crew responsible for dropping the explosive toured the city. Though they spoke with a number of Japanese locals, all members of the air crew kept their true identities a secret. In 1990, Fred Rogers, the charismatic Mr. Rogers from the PBS show of the same name, and his production company sued the Ku Klux Klan in an attempt to stop the organization from impersonating him in a very racist as well as homophobic telephone message that they were sending out. A judge ordered the KKK to stop and turn over the tapes. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, unless you're a racist. In Athens, Greece, a police officer can strip a person of their driver's license if they feel the individual is unbathed or even just poorly dressed. When exposed to prolonged periods of microgravity in space, an astronaut's heart actually begins to shrink. The MGM Grand Hotel and Casino is one of the largest, most extravagant hotels in all of Las Vegas, and it's estimated that a whopping 15,000 pillowcases are washed in their laundry rooms every day. In Hong Kong, China, you can purchase a watercress and duck gizzard flavored package of Campbell's soup, while in Mexico, you can get cream of chili poblano. I mean, I would try them. A man named Daniel Steinbelt once challenged Beethoven to an improvisation contest. When it was Beethoven's turn to perform, he took the piece, turned it upside down, and placed it on the stand. His performance frustrated Steinbelt to the point that he left before the music stopped and made it known that he would not perform at any event that Beethoven was invited to. The first video game to be played in space was Tetris. It was played by Russian cosmonaut Alexander A. Serebrov on a Game Boy that he brought along with him in 1993. Between December 5th and 6th of 1928, an estimated 3,000 workers were killed while on strike from their jobs at the United Fruit Company. The group had refused to work and demanded dignified working conditions. Losing a significant amount of money and with the United States threatening to invade and protect their interests, the Colombian government sent in the military who opened fire. The horrible incident is now known as the Banana Massacre. One bite from the Russell's pit viper can send an adult human through a type of reverse puberty. The snakes, which are found in Southeast Asia, have a venom which can damage a person's pituitary pituitary gland to the point where it stops producing hormones. This can lead to the individual losing their sex drive as well as fertility, in addition to body hair. Of course, this can only happen if the snake bite doesn't, of course, kill them. On the evening of December 13th, 1977, Air India Flight 216 crashed soon after takeoff in Evansville, Indiana, killing all but one member of the University of Evansville basketball team. The lone team member left alive wasn't actually on the plane. However, 2 weeks after the tragic crash, he lost his life after being struck by a drunk driver. In September of 2011, after a police search party failed to locate a 77-year-old hunter who had been lost in a forest near Lac Saint-Jean, Quebec, Canada for 2 days, the hunter's friend, ex-wrestling star Raymond Rougeau, got in his seaplane and flew over the area performing his own search, and he found the man alive. David Copperfield was the first illusionist to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and has sold more tickets as a solo performer than any other entertainer in history. Ears of corn always have an even number of rows. This is because corn spikelets are always born in pairs. In January of 1931, while staying at a hotel in Paris, France, novelist Arnold Bennett was warned by a waiter to avoid drinking the water. Bennett asked for a glass of water anyway, claiming it was safe. But it was a fatal mistake and he died of typhoid 2 months later. The actors who play Cersei and Bronn in HBO's epic series Game of Thrones are never in the same scene together because the two actors who portray them, Lena Headey and Jerome Flynn, dated in real life and had a horrible breakup. Both of them have stipulations in their contracts that say they will never be in the same room together. Around 20% of the total calories taken in by human beings worldwide comes from the consumption of rice. Many perfumes contain something called scatol, a potent smelling chemical that, ironically, is naturally found in human feces. Las Vegas law states that it's illegal for someone to pawn their dentures as they're deemed a prescribed medical device. Most cultures view sticking out your tongue as a sign of distaste, but it's the opposite in Tibet, where it's considered good manners to stick your tongue out at someone. A survey conducted in the United States in 1997 revealed that 12% of Americans believe that Joan of Arc was the wife of Noah, the biblical figure that had an ark. Both figures received messages from God, but even if both their stories are 100% accurate, the pair didn't even live in the same age in history. According to the Aluminum Association, nearly 75% of all aluminum ever made is still in use today. This is due to the reusability of the metal and the recycling efforts put forward. In the 1850s, gold was worth less than aluminum. Gold was priced at a mere $664 per kilogram, whereas aluminum was worth nearly double that, at a whopping $1,200 per kilogram. This is because at the time, finding aluminum in its pure form was very rare, but extracting it from bauxite, the world's main source of the metal, was expensive. The sound of a Ferrari's engine is one of the car's most distinctive features, and that sound is actually created by utilizing 3rd and 6th harmonics in the engine's air tank. Basically, they're musically engineered to sound amazing, much like a flute or organ is. Soft drink giant Coca-Cola once launched an upselling campaign called H2NO. It included a website that taught waiters how to convince customers to buy their products over ordering a free water. The goal was to make consumers say no to H2O. The average 10-hour trip from a Boeing 747 uses up as much as 150,000 liters of fuel. On average, the plane requires 4 liters for every second that they're airborne. Cheating on your final exams in any country is frowned upon, but in Bangladesh, students over the age of 15 that are caught cheating can actually be sentenced to jail time. In 1865, the American $20 bill featured a painting of the legendary Native American woman Pocahontas' baptism. She's seen kneeling before a priest with other Native Americans on the side and settlers on the other. The late Hugh Hefner, the founder of Playboy, and thus the Playboy Bunny, had a real bunny species named after him. The species is an endangered marsh rabbit called the Silvologus palustris hafneri and lives in southeastern United States. Two-time Oscar Award winner Mel Gibson was born with a rare birth defect that affects around 1 in 600 people, known as horseshoe kidney. Both of his kidneys fused together before birth, forming a U-shape or a horseshoe. If you happen to run over an animal with your car in the state of West Virginia, the law there says that you are legally allowed to claim it as your own, bring it home, and consume it as roadkill dinner. Really, is food not that plentiful there? That's disgusting. Before it was given the title Friends, the hit sitcom had a number of working titles, including Across the Hall and Insomnia Cafe. The thick bark and deeper grooves of older redwoods create a protective barrier around the tree, ultimately rendering the tree fireproof. Marvel Comics creator Stan Lee made his first cameo in a video game for Spider-Man in 2000 that was sold for PlayStation 1. His last cameo in a video game was the 2018 version of Spider-Man for the PlayStation 4. According to the journal Scientific, if the average man was consumed, he would yield around 125,822 calories. The brain contains 2,706 calories, the heart 650 calories, and the liver 2,569 calories. But the body part that contains the most calories are the thighs, which have around 13,354 calories each. Cause that's a fact you needed to know. Following the September 11th attacks, all civilian aircrafts in the US were ordered to be grounded for 3 days. During those 3 days, geographers such as David Travis at the University of Wisconsin observed that the Earth actually cooled down because at night the planes trapped warmth on the surface that would have otherwise escaped. Managers at In-N-Out burger chains can earn an average of $160,000 a year without a college degree. No one has ever successfully climbed the summit of K2 in the winter, and it remains one of the last great challenges in the mountaineering world. The Pan Am Smile, also known as the Botox smile, is a term used for people who use a fake smile. This originated from the flight attendants of Pan American World Airways when they would repeatedly give passengers the same fake smile.
Huh? No, actually, this is the worst day of my life. I just got Botox.
In 2012, it was revealed that a small-town New Mexico police chief wasn't allowed to carry a gun because of his criminal background. Ultimately, he had to step down, and the only certified member of the police force left was a drug-sniffing dog named Nika. An ammunition company called Advanced Ballistic Concepts have created a shotgun shell that's filled with different seasonings that is shot into a duck when they are killed. They call this new invention the pre-seasoned duck shot. Honestly, you can't make that up. Coco the gorilla had a fascination with both male and female human nipples and would frequently ask people if he could see them. 3 staff members at the Gorilla Foundation filed lawsuits with the organization in 2005, claiming that they were pressured to show their nipples to Coco by the executive director. The lawsuits were settled out of court. An ancient Indian cave temple called the Kailasa Temple is a Hindu megalith structure that was carved out of one single rock. The carvers of the temple started at the top of the rock and excavated their way downwards. According to the US Census Bureau, St. Louis has lost 64% of its population since 1950, which is the highest percentage of any US city with 100,000 or more people. Detroit, Michigan, and Youngstown, Ohio are the only 2 other US cities to have a population decline of at least 60% within that time. The NFL team, the Green Bay Packers, is the only publicly owned and not-for-profit major professional sports team in the United States. The organization has been owned by fans since the 1920s. McDonald's purchases about 2 billion eggs a year, which make up about 4% of eggs produced in the US every year. And in 2015, the fast food giant vowed to stop purchasing eggs from battery cage facilities by the year 2025. According to Sid Luft, who is actress Judy Garland's former husband, the munchkins on the film set of The Wizard of Oz would repeatedly molest and grope Garland. He claimed that the 40-plus-year-old actors would also put their hands up her dress. An Arkansas man's kidneys failed after drinking a gallon of black iced tea a day. Black tea contains the chemical oxalate, which clogs the kidneys and causes kidney stones, as well as failure when too much of it is consumed. Many historians believe that Jesus Christ existed as a man on earth. The only two events that happened in his life that they all agree on as historical facts are his baptism and crucifixion. However, many of them differ on the reason that he was crucified. The theme song for the popular television show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia was written by German composer Heinz Kessling in the 1960s. Kessling died in 2003, 2 years before the show premiered on television. According to Psychologist World, homosexuals are 39% more likely to be left-handed than heterosexuals. This is an odd statistic considering that 10 to 13% of the general population is left-handed. Propane is an odorless gas that is intentionally odorized so people are capable of detecting when the gas is present or leaking. Only 3 astronauts have ever died while in space. The Russian spacecraft Soyuz 11's Georgy Dobrovolsky, Viktor Patsayev, and Vladislav Volkov all decompressed in space. This happened when they undocked from the station's Salyut 1 on June 30th, 1971. Film producer Joel Silver, who is known for such blockbusters like the Lethal Weapon movies as well as The Matrix, helped with the invention of the ultimate frisbee in high school. He was later inducted into the USA Ultimate Hall of Fame, and deservedly so. The Guinness World Records Gamers Edition record for most photosensitive epileptic seizures caused by a TV show belongs to the popular cartoon Pokemon. The series also holds other world records like game series with the most spin-off movies and most successful RPG series of all time. I don't care what the actual record is, Diablo 2 or Super Mario RPG are the tops. The grandson of French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte's brother is named Charles Joseph Bonaparte from Baltimore, Maryland, and he was the creator of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, also known as the FBI. All 7.3 billion people on Earth could potentially fit inside of a 1 cubic kilometer building. If every human on Earth became a grain of rice, then those 7.3 billion grains would fit inside of a 6.1 cubic meter building, which is around the same size as a 2-story house. According to UC San Diego sociology professor David P. Phillips, women are more likely to die 1 week after their birthday than any other week of the year. Phillips also reported that men are more likely to die 2 to 3 weeks before their birthday. Music producers Pharrell Williams and Chad Hugo of the Neptunes were so big at one point in the early 2000s that approximately 43% of the songs played in the United States on radio stations were produced by them. They had to time their release dates so that one song would not overlap with others and clog up the airwaves. The population of Monowai, Nebraska is 1, and the only resident is an 84-year-old woman named Elsie Eiler. She's the mayor as well as the librarian of the town, and even granted herself a liquor license to become the town bartender. She also pays taxes to herself. According to the Smithsonian Museum, bats know how to swim and are surprisingly good at it. They only use this trick when the need arises or when they are in stressful situations. Some species are even known to hunt for food and water. The word robot was originated from the 1920 Czech play RUR by writer Karel Čapek. The term comes from the Slavic word robota, which means forced laborer. A study conducted by the Ornithological Society claims that the bird songs of the eastern hermit thrush and the western hermit thrush of North America are different. This means that birds have different accents based on their respective geographic regions, similar to other highly intelligent animals. Actor Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's beard prosthetic for the 2014 action movie Hercules was made from the pubic hair of yaks. The process of applying the hair to the face would take 3 hours every day before the film shoot. That's Ugh, that's gross, no thank you. In October of 1918, Philadelphia threw a massive parade to promote the war effort. The 200,000 plus people who attended were jammed together in the street and were exposed to the Spanish flu outbreak. More than 4,500 people contracted the deadly sickness and consequently died 2 weeks after the parade. Actress Davy Chase not only played Samara in the horror film The Ring, but she also voiced the character Lilo from Disney's Lilo and Stitch. There is a 1 in 64 billion chance that your fingerprint will match up with someone else's in the world, and there are no two people who ever have been documented with matching prints. Identical twin siblings don't even share the same fingerprints. The 3 highest grossing media franchises are Pokemon with 95 billion a year, Star Wars with 85 billion a year, and Hello Kitty with 80 billion a year in revenue. According to SeaWorld, elephants have a keen sense of smell and are capable of smelling water from 19.2 kilometers away. Their sense of smell is constantly being used by sweeping their trunk back and forth to detect new scents and information. The smell of cosmic space is similar to what you would smell at a NASCAR race. Fumes, melting metals, and cooked meats are all smells that you could experience floating among the stars. Space meat. These smells are caused by the dying stars all around us. When Marcos Rodriguez Pantoja was abandoned as a child in the wilderness of Spain in 1965, he lived with wolves for 15 years. After he was discovered and taken in by humans, he learned how to speak and is still alive today. In 1972, 24 explosive mines in the sea off the coast of Vietnam detonated because of one of the largest solar flares ever recorded. The last solar flare of that magnitude occurred and was recorded in 1859. Mary Edwards Walker is the first and only woman to have been awarded the Medal of Honor for her admirable service as a surgeon during the American Civil War. According to Dr. Mitch Wilkinson from Baylor University, there's a genetic mutation in horses from North America as well as Asia that causes them to have curly hair both domestically and in the wild. 75% of all early silent films to ever be made are lost, according to a comprehensive study from the Library of Congress. A big factor in this was the deterioration of the films that were from the years 1912 to 1929. There's a chance that overweight men can pass on genetic obesity to their children because of the altered information found in their sperm. In March 1997, 39 members of the cult Heaven's Gate committed mass suicide because they believed that they would teleport to an alien spaceship that was behind the Hale-Bopp comet that was passing Earth at the time. Actor Jason Statham was a member of the British national swimming team for 12 years and participated in the 1990 Commonwealth Games. However, he never made the Olympic team and decided to become an actor. Around 1917, early car tires were originally white, but later had a compound called carbon black added to the rubber, which was a fine manufactured suit. Adding this material greatly increased the tire's wear resistance. The term broadcasting comes from the agricultural method of planting seeds in a field by casting them broadly around the area. Even though the oceans cover around 71% of Earth, they only make up about 0.02% of the planet's landmass. The first movie-themed toys for McDonald's Happy Meals in 1979 were from Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Liberty Island, which is home to the Statue of Liberty in New York, has been constantly patrolled 24 hours a day and 7 days a week by the United States Park Police Marine Unit since the September 11th terrorist attacks in 2001.